of what? So these are particularly being surrounded with reference by the medium of the semi-permeable membrane. So the term or either the process or either the component by which it is particularly being surrounded, meaning in term of what? In term of the vacuole. So these are known as what? So these are known as the protoplast. Now, so talking about what are actually the important roles with reference in the case of the animal cell, meaning in term of the role of the vacuoles. Remember? So these are playing important role in order to carry out the course of the ingestion of the foods. Example will be what? So the best example will be the case of the amoeba. After that, you are having the here of the expelling of the excess waste product. So when we are talking about that case, so you will be having what? So you will be having here, meaning term of what? Meaning term of the, in the case of the protozoa, or rather the expelling of the waste, or rather the water, excess water, in the case of what? In term of the protozoa. Now, so very clearly understood. As well as when we are talking about the case of the concamitous tissue. So these are providing the flexibility with reference to the plant body. By this case only, this meaning term of what? In term of the concamitous tissue have to determine as well as playing important role to provide the strength also, often provide the flexibility in order from breaking out. So you could suppose that if there will be no any kind of the flexibility, so these will be doing what? In term of the different plants part, in term of its stem or rather the different parts. So it could be broke down. So your concamitous tissue playing important role in order for resisting the stem to particular breakdown and provides this flexibility. So suppose that the air flow, after that what will be happening? The direction in which the pressure of the winds will be particularly higher, it will bend in that direction. So these are particularly being supported with reference to what? With reference to these tissue only, meaning in term of what? In term of the concamitous tissue. So you, and your monocotyledonous stem are particularly having what things? So it will be often having the hypodermis, remember? So we have just understood about the case of here, meant of the skin cavities as well as the hypodermis. So now, let's understand about these what are actually the hypodermis in terms of brief. So when we are talking about the, here in terms of the hypodermis, playing important role in terms of what? So it provides the, here mechanical support as well as the strength with reference to what? With reference in the case of the, and we are often having the different as well as the very important here made of the component with reference to what? With reference in the case of the monocotyledonous stem. So we are having the hypodermis. Remember what are actually the hypodermis? Tell me. And when we are talking about the case of the important components as well as the parts in terms of what? In terms of the monocotyledonous stem. So it will be bearing the here made of the hypodermis. Remember what are actually the hypodermis? So hypodermis are composed of the thin layer of the and when we are talking about the another components as well as the important parts with reference to what? With reference in the case of the monocotyledonous stem. So it will be resembling what? So it will be resembling the hypodermis. So when we are talking about the hypodermis, remember what are actually the hypodermis? So hypodermis bearing what things? So your hypodermis is bearing the concamitous tissue, which are playing important role in order to provide what? Mean in terms of the hypodermis, playing important role to provide the mechanical support as well as the strength with reference to what? With reference to the young stem. And you are very clear about that. Means what are actually the hypodermis? Often when we are talking about these cases, means what are actually the concamitous tissue. Remember what are actually the concamitous tissue? So these are playing important role in order to carry out as well as perform the process such as the photosynthesis. Mean in order in terms of what? The concamitous tissue. Often when we are talking about the another role, so playing important role in order to perform the photosynthesis process, mean in terms of what? In terms of the concamitous tissue. As well as when we are talking about the resemblance of what? Of these, mean in order in terms of the content which are literally being present in terms of your concamitous tissue. So these are what? So these are the cellulose, of course, then the pectin. Often you will be having the case such as the lipase. Now, so when we are talking about the case of these, mean in order in terms of the concamitous tissue. So these are particularly resembling the structure which is having the cell wall. Often it will be resembling the vacuoles. So you are very clear about that. Means what are actually the vacuoles. Remember? So vacuoles are literally being present with reference to the plant body in terms of the larger amount or rather the plant cell. But when we are talking about the case of the here meant of the animal cell, so presence of the vacuoles will be particularly negligible, or rather if it will be present in terms of what? In terms of the inferior ratio or rather inferior amount. Often when we are talking about what are actually the important roles with reference to the vacuoles, remember? So vacuoles playing important role in order for the expelling of the excess waste product or rather the water. Often playing important role in order to carry out the course of the, tell me, the ingestion of the food ingredients or rather the food molecules. Often their presence are literally being present with reference to the plant cell, of course, as well as the animal cells, of course. So when we are talking about these cases, means the presence of the vacuoles in terms of the plant cell. So these are literally being surrounded with reference in the case of what? So these are particularly being surrounded with reference by the here meant of the semi-permeable membrane. So the term or either the process or either the component by which it is particularly being surrounded, meaning in term of what? In term of the vacuoles. So these are known as what? So these are known as the Tuto. Now, so talking about what are actually the important roles with reference in the case of the animal cell, in term of the role of the vacuoles. Remember? So these are playing important role in order to carry out the course of the ingestion of the foods. Example will be what? So the best example will be the case of the amoeba. After that, you are having the here in term of the expelling of the excess waste product. So when we are talking about that case, so you will be having what? So you will be having here, meaning term of what? Meaning term of the, in the case of the protozoa or rather the expelling of the waste or rather the water, excess water in the case of what? In term of the protozoa. Now, so very clearly understood. As well as when we are talking about the case of the concamitous tissue. So these are providing the flexibility with reference to the plant body. By this case only, this meaning term of what? In term of the concamitous tissue have to determine as well as playing important role to provide the strength also, often provide the flexibility in order from breaking out. So you could suppose that if there will be no any kind of the flexibility, so these will be doing what? In term of the different plants part, in term of its stem or rather the different part. So it could be broke down. So your concamitous tissue playing important role in order for resisting the stem to particular breakdown and provides this flexibility. So suppose that the air flow, after that what will be happening? The direction in which the pressure of the winds will be particularly higher, it will bend in that direction. So these are particularly being supported with reference to what? With reference to these tissue only, meaning in term of what? In term of the concamitous tissue. So hypodermis. Often when we are talking about these cases, means what are actually the concamitous tissue? Remember what are actually the concamitous tissue? So these are playing important role in order to carry out as well as perform the process such as the photosynthesis, meaning in order in term of what? The concamitous tissue. Often when we are talking about the another role, so playing important role in order to perform the photosynthesis process, meaning in term of what? In term of the concamitous tissue. As well as when we are talking about the resemblance of what? Of these, meaning in order in term of the content which are literally being purged in term of your concamitous tissue. So these are what? So these are the cellulose, of course, then the pectin. Often you will be having the case such as the lipase. Now, so when we are talking about the case of these, meaning in order in term of the concamitous tissue. So these are particularly resembling the structure which is having the cell wall. Often it will be resembling the vacuoles. So you are very clear about that. Means what are actually the vacuoles. Remember? So vacuoles are literally being purged with reference to the plant body in terms of the larger amount or rather the plant cell. But when we are talking about the case of the here in terms of the animal cell, so presence of the vacuoles will be particularly negligible, or rather if it will be purged in terms of what? In terms of the inferior ratio or rather inferior amount. Often when we are talking about what are actually the important roles with reference to the vacuoles, remember? So vacuoles playing important role in order for the expelling of the excess waste product or either the water. Often playing important role in order to carry out the course of the ingestion of the food ingredients or either the food molecules. Often their presence are literally being purged with reference to the plant cell, of course, as well as the animal cells, of course. So when we are talking about these cases, means the presence of the vacuoles in terms of the plant cell. So these are literally being surrounded with reference in the case of what? So these are particularly being surrounded with reference by the here in terms of the semi-permeable membrane. So the term or either the process or either the component by which it is particularly being surrounded, meaning in terms of what? In terms of the vacuole. So these are known as what? So these are known as the Tuto. Now, so talking about what are actually the important roles with reference in the case of the animal cell, in terms of the role of the vacuoles. Remember? So these are playing important role in order to carry out the course of the ingestion of the foods. Example will be what? So the best example will be the case of the amoeba. After that, you are having the here in terms of the expelling of the excess waste product. So when we are talking about that case, so you will be having what? So you will be having here, meaning in terms of what? Meaning in terms of the